Hey everybody, Dan here with this week's TV news and reviews, and yes, we are back in my basement. It's been a while since I've done a video down here. I actually have somebody living down here now, but he is out for the day, so we are back doing some biz in the basement. So you can see my lovely DVD collection, or at least a small part of it, while you're watching. And Eagle Eye viewers will notice that there's different titles here. Yes, I've updated my wall here in the last month or so, so there is a lot of new titles for you to look at as you're watching my video, if you are into that. But please, before we get started on TV news and reviews, go ahead and hit that like button below if you do like this video. Subscribe if you haven't, and of course comment. I love interacting with you guys on the comments about these shows or anything that's on your mind. So let's do TV news and reviews. Only 4 new shows this week that we're going to talk about: Selena the series, The Hardy Boys Industry, and a new Madagascar cartoon show. But that's okay, because we have a ton of news to talk about, and that includes a lot of the Disney stuff from their investor meeting the other day. A lot of stuff coming to Disney Plus that we can talk about. But first, as always, we'll do renewals and cancellations, and there's a fair amount here of renewals. First of all, Industry Season 2. Not much to say there because we're going to review it later on in the show, but I will say that Warner, or HBO, I guess proper, released all of the series on HBO Max after just a few weeks of it being on HBO. So I think there's still 3 or 4 episodes left to air on HBO, but the whole thing is up on HBO Max, so obviously they got a good enough response from that to warrant a Season 2 already. Another early renewal, For All Mankind. That is on Apple TV Plus, and that is going to have a 3rd season, even though Season 2 is not coming until February. But Apple TV Plus, when they launched, they signed on a lot of their shows for 2 seasons already. So, you know, Morning Show, For All Mankind, Dickinson, maybe even the Jason Momoa Show, all got 2-season pickups immediately. And so this is really the first quote-unquote renewal for the show. But we will see a Season 3, obviously. You know, they've seen Season 2 and what it looks like, and they've decided, let's move ahead with a Season 3. The Handmaid's Tale, so that is an early renewal as well. Not even Season 4 yet. That's going to be on next year, but they are already renewed for Season 5 for The Handmaid's Tale. Obviously, you know, a huge flagship show for Hulu. Lots of critical love and fan love as well. And I love that they're doing this, because Netflix, of course, is notorious at this point for cutting off their shows after 2 to 3 seasons. So it's nice to see Hulu, you know, really standing by one of their big flagship shows. I think it'll be interesting when Stranger Things is done Season 4 to see if Netflix renews it for Season 5. Because I would say Stranger Things is probably their most popular show ever. You know, and some of their early shows got a lot of years. You know, Orange is the New Black ran, I think, 7, and Grace and Frankie has run 6 or 7. But, you know, recently, anyway, they're cutting a lot of their shows off at the knees. So I'm glad to see Hulu, you know, really being responsive to what fans love, which is Handmaid's Tale, obviously. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This is so interesting. So this has now broken the record, or will break the record, I guess, for the longest-running live-action scripted primetime show. So, of course, you know, in the animated realm, you've got The Simpsons and Family Guy that have been on longer, and then, you know, news shows like 2020 and 60 Minutes, of course, have been on a long time as well. But for scripted primetime sitcoms, I guess, because dramas, you've got Law and Order. But Ozzie and Harriet holds the record, ties the record currently, with 14 seasons with Always Sunny, which is wild. But Always Sunny has gotten now 4 new seasons, so it will run through season 18, making it by far the longest-running primetime live-action sitcom in history. And that's 70 years of television. And Ozzie and Harriet ran at a time, of course, when there were like 36 to 39 episodes per season. So there's, I'm sure, I don't even know, 300 to 400 episodes of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, whereas, you know, Always Sunny has, you know, less than half of that, because they usually run 10 episodes, 12 episodes a season. But no matter, it will be the longest running with 18 consecutive seasons, which is just kind of crazy. I love Always Sunny. I have actually missed the last at least season, maybe last 2 seasons. So I do have to catch up, but it's one of my favorite shows. Certainly for the sitcoms. So How To with John Wilson is going to come back for season 2. I did not love this when I reviewed it a couple of weeks ago, but critically it has been doing very well. And it only had 6 episodes, so they've given it, I don't know if it's going to be another 6 or they're upping it for season 2, but How To with John Wilson will be back on HBO. Transplant for season 2. Now that just wrapped up, I guess, last week on NBC from its short run, because that is a Canadian export show. Networks obviously were scrambling to find shows that were already produced that they could run during the COVID times, where they couldn't really produce their own shows in a timely manner. So Transplant has done very well for NBC, well enough that it is the number 2 new drama on television. Not that there's, a ton of them out there, really, because obviously with COVID, not a lot have been produced. But it did very well for NBC. Now, they replaced it this week with their new show, Nurses, which is another Canadian export set in a hospital. I will be reviewing that show next week. But Transplant will be back for season 2, and I'm glad to see that. I liked that show. I gave it probably somewhere in the B+ range. I liked it. And then finally, on Netflix, Feel Good is coming back for season 2. This is a show that I loved. I gave it an A-. Very, very good show. However, Netflix has announced, yes, we're giving it a season 2, but that will be the final season. So, at least Netflix is being proactive now and not leaving their shows hanging. Like, I will always be mad that Santa Clarita Diet ended on a cliffhanger after season 3. But here they're saying, okay, we're giving you one more season, but that will be it. However, they are working with the creators on other content. So I think there's another show coming in 2021 from those same creators. So maybe that will be good as well. And then we have a few shows getting more episodes, a top-off, if you will. So Big Sky, which is the number 1 new drama of the season, that will get a new 6-episode order, so that'll be 16 by the end of the season, which really in COVID times, I think 16 to 18 is going to be pretty much the max we're going to top out at. Like, a lot of these shows usually get 22 episodes, 20 episodes, but I think 16 to 18 will be about where we're at here come May for season finale. So 16 episodes for Big Sky, that is a full season at this point. And then the Amber Ruffin show over on Peacock, getting 10 more episodes. In fact, there's still 1 or 2 more to run in December, and then it'll take a couple weeks off for the holidays, and then we'll come back in January with 10 new episodes. I really did not care for this show. I thought maybe there was potential, but it certainly was far from it being there already. Maybe after the first 10 episodes, Amber Ruffin has kind of found her niche. I don't know. But I did not grade that very highly. But if you're a fan, 10 more episodes are coming your way on Peacock for Amber Ruffin. A couple of cancellations. One that we've talked about before, but the one we did not is Hoops. That was an adult animated series on Netflix starring Jake Johnson. I laughed a bit at this, and I saw some potential, but I think I gave it like a C or a C+. It was a very average show. I think they were trying a little too hard to be naughty. But that's over now after 1 season. And then One Day at a Time is finally done. We've been back and forth really with this show because of course it was first on Netflix, and then it got canceled, and then it went to Pop, and then after this current season of Schitt's Creek being over and One Day at a Time sort of in limbo, Pop is now done with scripted television. So they said, well, we're not going to run you. We don't have anything on anymore that's going to be scripted. So Sony was shopping it around. CBS All Access maybe was going to pick it up, but Netflix's contract kind of prohibits that for at least another year. They didn't want to wait around, so Sony shopped it elsewhere. I know Spectrum was kind of sniffing around at it, but it's not to be. One Day at a Time is officially dead. It is done, unfortunately. They've got 40-some episodes in the can, but it will be now a dead series, unfortunately. So let's talk about the Disney investor meeting. So Disney had a lot of things to say at their investor meeting in this past week, but most of it actually is geared to Disney Plus. And that's both films and movies. We're not going to delve too much into the movies because this is my TV review show. But I do know that they're making a Sister Act 3 and a Three Men and a Baby reboot for their streaming platform. But basically about 80 of the 100 things they talked about were for Disney Plus. There was a few theatrical things to talk about. They talked about Thor, but for the most part, they are really focusing on the Disney Plus streamer, which honestly makes sense because who knows what's going on with theaters. You know, I work at a mom and pop theater, and we just had to close again for new PA restrictions. So, you know, content is not really being released. Obviously, Warner Brothers got in a little hot water for saying they're going to release all of their 2021 content on HBO Max the same day as they released in theaters. So I guess it makes sense that Disney is really, putting all their eggs right now in the Disney Plus basket, and they've, premiered a lot of their theatrically supposed to be theatrical movies on Disney Plus this year, including smaller movies like Magic Camp and Ivan, and then big movies as well, Mulan, and then Soul from Pixar will be coming on Christmas. But let's talk about all the things we know from the Disney Plus side of things at the TV or at the conference. So we knew about a few of these. WandaVision is all done and set for release on January 15th. Falcon and the Winter Soldier now has a date of March. Loki, which is going to be a mini-series, I guess, based on the Hiddleston character from the Thor movies, that is going to be in May of 2021. And then Hawkeye premiering in late fall. And then What If, which is an animated series featuring some of the voice talents of a lot of the Marvel people. No date for that still, but they did have a trailer released. Okay, so then there are 3 new series in the Marvel Universe coming to Disney+. Ironheart, which is going to be about, I guess, something with Tony Stark. Ironheart, it doesn't say it in this article, but I read a different article. It's something about, like, Tony Stark, and I guess that's its own comic series as well, Ironheart. And then you've got Armor Wars, which is about Tony Stark's big fears, and Don Cheadle will star in that, reprising his role, from the Iron Man movies. And then you've got Secret Invasion, which is a Nick Fury-led series that will see Samuel L. Jackson, which is interesting for Disney+, but he's going to come back as the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, of course, Nick Fury, alongside Ben Mendelsohn's Talos. And no release date, for any of those have been talked about. But there's also, let's see, Moon Knight is a different one that's from another comic book. I don't know much about that, but that will be coming to Disney Plus at some point. She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. And so She-Hulk is interesting because that's going to be Tatiana Maslany from Black Mirror, which I still have not seen, but apparently she's amazing in. And she's going to team up with Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner in that show. And then Ms. Marvel will star Kamala Khan, the character that we saw in the Captain Marvel, or we didn't see it in Captain Marvel 1, I guess, but she will be in Captain Marvel 2, so it will sort of lead off of that, I guess. And then there's also going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special for Disney Plus, due out at the end of 2022. So all of that is going on. There may be a Groot series of shorts as well called I Am Groot. So all of that has been announced on the Marvel side of things, and there's some movie stuff as well. Notably, they talked about the third Ant-Man film. They talked about how they're not going to cast T'Challa in Black Panther to replace Chadwick Boseman for Black Panther 2. They talked about Doctor Strange, and then there's a new Fantastic Four movie from the recent director of the Spider-Man movie. So that's on the movie side of things, but we don't really care too much about that here on the TV news and review show. But there's a ton of Star Wars stuff as well, which I don't really care about Star Wars, I do think The Mandalorian was a good show. I didn't see season 2, but people love The Mandalorian, and they love Star Wars, so let's bring on the way oversaturation of the Star Wars stuff. So let's see what we've got. So we've got Star Wars The Bad Batch, which is an animated show that follows up the Clone Wars, so of course that will be popular. There's going to be Andor, starring Diego Luna from Rogue One, and that's going to be in 2022. I thought Rogue One is my least favorite of the Star Wars movies that I've seen, so I'm not real excited about that. And then we've got a couple of Mandalorian spin-offs, Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka. And then apparently there's going to be some crossover with all three of those shows, Rangers, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka, at some point down the line. We've got The Aesolite, which is... now this might be interesting because it's from the Russian Doll creator, and I love Russian Doll. And this is going to be set in the High Republic era of the franchise. We've also got Hayden Christensen returning as Darth Vader in a show called Obi-Wan Kenobi. So obviously look at him. A droid story, which is going to be R2-D2 and C-3PO, two of my favorite characters. I think it's animated, is what I read in the other article. It doesn't say that in this one, but and there's going to be a new hero alongside them. I love R2-D2 and C-3PO. I will watch that for sure. And then Lando is going to be a mini-series heading to Disney Plus. And no word on, if Donald Glover will be Lando, because of course he played Lando in the Solo movie. And then there's an anime anthology series called Star Wars Visions that is coming as well. So that is on the Star Wars side. Now, Pixar also has some new things coming to Disney Plus. Now, some of their movies will be on there as well, including Raya and the Last Dragon. That will now be premiering on Disney Plus. But that's also going to theaters. They're going to do a little bit of the Mulan thing where you can pay for it if you want to on Disney Plus, or it will be released in theaters the same day. But series-wise, you've got Baymax, which is obviously based on Big Hero 6. That will be in early 2022. Zootopia Plus. This should be interesting. It's a new series based on Zootopia. I don't think it's going to have any of the main characters from that show, but it will explored the world, which I think is great because that world was rich with things that we didn't really get to see necessarily a lot of in the movie. So that will be in spring of 2022. Then we've got Tiana, based of course on the princess from Princess and the Frog. That will be in 2023. They're really looking ahead for these. Let's see. There's going to be a comedy musical series based on Moana, which will debut in 2023 as well. We've got Encanto. That's a new movie that's coming to Disney Plus with Lin-Manuel Miranda. We don't need to talk about that. And then Iwaju, which is going to be a series or a mini-series. I'm not sure. And that's going to premiere on Disney Plus in 2022. I don't really know anything about that one. And then in terms of Pixar, again, that was more of the Disney stuff. That wasn't Pixar. This is now the Pixar stuff. So you've got Pixar Popcorn, you've got more Spark shorts, you've got Doug Days. So these are all shorts, I think. Doug Days is about the dog from Up. But I think those are all shorts series. But then you've got a new Cars TV show, which will follow, Lightning McQueen and Mater, and that is coming in fall 2022. And then Win or Lose, which is Pixar's first long-form animated series about a middle school softball team, and that's coming in the fall of 2023. I think that makes sense that Pixar is going into the TV realm because, of course, they had some success with some of their shorts on Disney Plus, like the Ask Forky stuff. But pretty much every studio now that makes theatrically animated movies makes them for the small screen as well. We're going to talk about Madagascar later today. Obviously, that's through DreamWorks. Last week we talked about Trolls, which was through Universal. So, everybody is pretty much getting their hands in on that. So I like that Pixar's doing it as well. However, I don't want them to sacrifice quality just because they're going into the long-form TV realm. Pixar movies are still, for the most part, a cut above the rest. Disney proper's had some really interesting ones lately as well, but for the most part, Pixar is still, the cream of the crop here. So I don't want to see them lose that quality, when they go into the long form stuff. All right, so that's really all I have on that. There's an Ice Age spinoff too with Simon Pegg that I guess is coming to Disney. Why would because they own Fox now. and that's going to be in 2022. So, all right, that's all the Disney stuff. That's a lot of TV stuff coming to Disney Plus. But, it's going to be over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. Some of those don't premiere till 2023. So we've got time, but I'm sure as long as I'm doing this TV news and review shows, you will hear about how good those shows are, in my opinion, when they come out. So before we get into the reviews, let's talk about, just real quickly, a few reboots coming. Buck Rogers is coming in 2021. Now, Buck Rogers is a show that my dad loves. It's one of his favorite sci-fi shows of all time. It aired for, I think, 2 years in the late 70s and early 80s. And it's been around long before that as a property. It had, a bunch of movies in the, 40s and 50s, I think. And as a comic, as a pulp comic, it debuted in the 20s. But this is very interesting because the grandson of the original creator is going to be working on this show with the Legendary Studios people that are doing it. So I think that will add a sense of real honor to it, and I'm excited to see that. True Blood may be returning. Nothing official yet, but HBO is in talks with their creator Alan Ball to bring that to either HBO or HBO Max. And the creator of Riverdale and Sabrina is going to be on board as well for that. And True Blood, I didn't realize this, was such a huge hit for HBO. The 3rd and 4th seasons got 5 million viewers per episode on average. And that, now granted, that was 10 years ago, so obviously times have changed a little bit. But for, a premium channel, HBO, to get 5 million viewers, and that's just on the initial viewing, that's on premiere night of True Blood, 5 million, that's pretty good. Didn't realize that. And then iCarly is coming back with Miranda Cosgrove and a lot of the original cast, and that ran from 2007 to 2012. I have seen like 2 episodes maybe of iCarly. I am obviously way past the demo, but even then, I was way past the demo. But the couple episodes I saw were funny. They made me laugh. In fact, actually, maybe I've seen more now because my nephew was watching it on Teen Nick when I was home for Thanksgiving. So I guess I saw at least a full episode there. So maybe I've seen 3 or 4. I don't know. But, they're always pretty funny. So I'm interested in that. That's, of course, going to be a more adult, not adult version as in like they're going to curse and stuff. But it will be them as adults as it is the original cast. And that will be coming to Paramount Plus, which is what CBS All Access is turning into in 2021. I don't know a date yet when that's going to happen, but early 2021 is what I know. So, and that actually fits right in with a lot of the stuff that they are doing with Nickelodeon and a lot of the kids' stuff, because the CBS All Access brand has just been real shy on kids stuff for some reason, which is weird because Netflix, Disney, they are like, their family and kids stuff really like rules the day, certainly on Disney. But Netflix, yeah, you've got your Stranger Things, but I mean, when there's a family film that drops on there, even if it's 10 years old, it always skyrockets up to the top of their chart. When they put Despicable Me on over the summer, it was like in their top 5 for a month. So it was always weird to me that CBS All Access didn't have a kid's arm when Viacom owns Nickelodeon and a lot of those other channels. So, but they're bringing over 8,000 episodes of a lot of the Nick classic shows, a lot of the Nick Jr. shows though, like Bubble Guppies and stuff. So not all of it's going to be stuff like iCarly, but still, I think we'll take what we can get, and that's going to be over on Paramount Plus. Okay, so without further ado, we've done so much news. Let's get to the review, shall we? So first up, we're going to talk about Selena, the series. This is on Netflix, and of course, we already had Selena, the movie, with Jennifer Lopez, and very, very popular. Basically, started her acting career, that's for sure. And this is, just like that. It's about Selena, the singer, Selena Quintanilla, and this show takes us from her childhood to her rise to fame, along with a lot of her family drama, the stuff with her early band with the family, and all of that kind of stuff. And there is it 10 episodes of this or 8? I'm right in the middle. There's 9 episodes of this, and I actually watched the first 3 since I was only doing 4 shows this week. I watched a little bit extra than I normally do. So I watched 3 episodes of this. And much like Queen's Gambit, the first episode of this really does not have the adult or even teenage Selena. It's the little kid Selena. So I definitely had to watch at least more than the one, because we didn't even see, Christian Serratos, who plays the adult Selena throughout the rest of the series. So the only person I really recognized from this show, and I'll be honest, it took me a minute. It was till at least the second episode I was like, wait a second. I think that's the Desperate Housewives dude. And yes, Ricardo Chiavera from Desperate Housewives. He played Gabrielle's husband. He is in this as Selena's father. He's clean-shaven, so it's a little bit of a different look. But it took me a minute, but I got him. And, he's fine here. The problem with this show mainly is that it doesn't focus enough really on Selena herself. It should be called, Selena and Family, the series, or Selena's Band or something, because it's as much, if not more, about the family dynamic and her father sort of ruling things with an iron fist to get everything just so the band can get gigs and promoting themselves and stuff. And while that's mildly interesting, I didn't really hate any of that, but it's not about Selena. Selena's almost an afterthought in her own show, and I shouldn't say an afterthought. I mean, it's not that dire, but it's definitely more about the family dynamic and specifically the father than it is really about Selena herself and kind of like what she's going through at this point in her life. And look, obviously she's not around to ask anymore. And I will admit I've never seen the Jennifer Lopez movie, but I've seen obviously clips of her playing the role and singing and stuff, and she did obviously a fantastic job. Everybody knows that. This gal Serratos, she's good. I'm not going to say she is up there on the level with J-Lo, but she's good. And so far in the series, after the 3rd episode, she's still like a teenager. So we don't quite. I haven't seen the full blossoming into adulthood from the I don't want to say the elder Selena, because she only made it to her mid-20s, unfortunately. But in her later years, I haven't seen that yet. But thus far, it's really standard stuff. There's nothing really new here. The only mildly interesting bent is that she is famous for being a Latina singer, a Tejano singer, but she was born and raised here in America, and for a long, long, long time didn't even speak Spanish. So I found that stuff to be interesting, but look, I'm sure if I saw the movie, I would have realized that, and that would have been covered already. So, A, it's treading new ground. B, it's, when I hear Selena the series, I think, okay, they're really going to delve into her psyche, and they're going to delve into, what made her so famous and why she became such a success. And there's hints of that here, but not a ton yet. I mean, by the end of the 3rd episode, she had already won the Tejano Female Singer of the Year award at the Tejano Music Awards. So it's like she was already on her rocket ride to stardom, and yet it's still about the dad mainly and his desire for them to be a successful family band and all of that stuff. So I think it's unfortunately done a bit of a disservice to Selena and her legacy with that in mind. And it's funny because obviously there's been a bit of a cry lately for Latinx representation on television, and we've seen several shows lately that have kind of come and gone. Like Party of Five, they redid that with a Latinx flavor to it. That ended after 1 season. Obviously, One Day at a Time is done. And so yes, it would be great to see more of that on the big screen or on the small screen. But this is not the project. It's just unfortunate. It comes off as so just kind of generic. Now, I will say that the performances are good. I mean, there's I don't have any complaints really about that. Certainly, I mean, maybe some of the side characters, whatever, but this is mainly about Selena and her father, and those two actors are doing a great job here. I think that the dude from Desperate Housewives, I think he's probably doing a better job here than there, because I think the character he can sink his teeth into a little bit more. Desperate Housewives was such an ensemble, and it was more obviously about the housewives, not the husbands. So he was really, quite the side character on that show, whereas here he's definitely more front and center. I would say a little too much front and center, but he gives a good performance, a solid performance. I'm going to leave Selena kind of right in the middle, maybe a little above average. I'll leave Selena the series with a C+. It's actually, I tend to look at the Rotten Tomato scores for, whatever I'm about to review, just to see like where I am in line with everybody else. It's got like a 33% on Rotten, and the audience doesn't like it either. I think the audience is like 45%. Like, it's bad on Rotten, but I think those are a little harsh. I think it's a little better than that. I'm not sure if I'm invested enough to finish up the series. Am I going to watch the other 6 episodes? I don't know. But I think it's okay, but they just could have done so much more with it. So up next, let's talk about HBO's Industry. This is, like I said, renewed already for season 2, so it's a big hit, and you can see all the episodes now if you have HBO Max. If not, you can wait for the last 3 episodes left. There's only 8 total, so yeah, we have 3 left before then the finale. So basically, we're following here in this show a group of young graduates who are competing for very few positions at this banking place called Pierpoint and Company in London, and the star of the show is Mahala Harold, a newcomer. She plays Harper, who is from New York, but really wanted this gig, so she did 7 different interviews to make some headway there, and she basically travels to London. She isn't a permanent fixture yet because there's still the full-time positions are not doled out yet. Maybe by the end of the season they are. I don't know, but she hopes at least to work there. And basically, it's about her and her interactions, I should say, at work and in her limited personal life. This is one of these jobs where you really got to sink your teeth into it. You have to live, breathe, and eat this job. And so there are limited interaction times. We see her, trying to maybe date, swiping on Tinder a little bit. But for the most part, she really is draping herself in the work. The only person I really recognize from this show is Ken Leung, who played Miles in Lost, if you remember him. And he plays basically her managing director at Pierpoint and Company. And all these other people I don't really know, but a lot of them are friends of hers, and a lot of them are co-workers of hers. And some of them are the same. Some of them are in the same boat she is in. They've moved to London hoping to secure something. Some of them are already from there hoping to secure something. But either way, they're all kind of like living together, sharing, a couple apartments. And so it's about their lives. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but because it's such a major plot point, in the first episode, one of her coworkers dies. And I won't say any more than that. There's a lot of speculation about what's going on, and much of the season is going to, I guess, not quite in the flight attendant way where it's all about the murder of the dude, but this will certainly be a focal point for many of the characters, throughout the season. I like the show. I think it tries a little too hard maybe to be like, okay, this is how, millennials are coping with, work life right now. And while I think that's probably true for a lot of people, especially in something like high finance, I'm at a point in my life with COVID and all of this stuff that has been going on, and I have had, loss of income from COVID and all of this stuff, that I'm not sure I really was able to sink my teeth into something like this right now, because banks and all their bailouts and all. It's just like, it's not really, they're not my friends. I don't care about these people. They're soul suckers, in my opinion. And she is good to sort of lead the charge because she is young and she doesn't really know about the industry yet. She's learning and she wants to be a part of it and all of this. So it's like, it is good to see a lot of things through her eyes. And I think her performance is a standout for sure. She really is good. Her name again, Mihaela Harold. But this is the kind of show where it's like, it is well written. It's not quite to like a Sorkin level, but it's got that sort of flavor to it. And I didn't watch The Newsroom, but I watched a couple of other Aaron Sorkin shows and movies, and it's got that kind of delivery down, and it's very fast paced. This definitely seems like it's biting off of that a bit, which I don't hate. I mean, it is well written and well acted. I don't care about any of these people though, and I'm not sure if that's by design or if that's because of where I am right now in life. I mean, I mildly care about her, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, she's sort of asking for this, fast-paced world, so what does she expect when she's a little bit over her head, And I watched 2 full episodes of this, even though it was an hour long. I did the full 2 episodes with it to give it a fair shake. But it didn't really change my mind very much. I do think it's a well-done show. I just think for me right now in my life, it is not the show for me. So I will leave it with a B because I see a lot of the merits with it, and it is well acted and well written. I don't think I'm going to finish it though. I don't think it's maybe in a couple of years. If I'm in a different place. I try not to let my personal life affect how I view something. But when I see, the high price world of finance, or if there was something right now on Wall Street, or something like that, I would just be like, I don't care about any of this. F you people, whatever. And I didn't feel quite that strongly about it, because I do think they've picked at least a good fish out of water character for us to talk about. But then the whole, like, dead guy thing, it's like that's kind of a trope that's been done before. I didn't really care about that person even before they died. So I'll leave it with a B because I do think it's well done, but I'm not in the right place right now to enjoy this show, if that makes sense. Up next, we're going to talk about The Hardy Boys. That is on Hulu, and this is obviously, a reworking of the classic book series, and then, of course, there was also a TV show in the 80s about it, and this actually ages down the boys a little bit, at least one of them, because you've got Joe and Frank Hardy, of course, Alexander Elliott and Rowan Campbell, but one is a teenager and the other is, I'm not sure, maybe 10, maybe 11, so whereas a lot of the iterations of Hardy Boys have had them be both college-aged, older teenagers kind of thing, not in all the iterations, but certainly in the original TV show, and I feel like that was age-wise faithful to the books. I don't remember the books, to be honest, but we had a lot of them, but I didn't read them. But I know they've never been aged down quite this much, and so it's an interesting take on it. And essentially the plot of at least the first season, I don't know if this will continue, but is that their mother dies, very soon in the first episode, so it's not much of a spoiler. And so they, along with their father, end up moving to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and try to uncover some truths behind their family tragedy in that way. And I watched 2 episodes of this as well, and if you know anything about the Hardy Boys, you know that the initial mystery, of searching for clues about their mom and her death, well, that's just going to be scratching the surface, and so they're opening up, a whole new world of different mysteries to solve. This is an okay show. I think the acting's all right. One thing I love about it, I'll say this off the bat, they are not making this a CW type show, which I really didn't care for the way they handled Nancy Drew over on the CW. Not everything has to be soapy. Not everything has to be sexed up. Not everything, has to have all of these adult themes. Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew are both, time-tested family properties, and I really appreciate that Hulu has kept this a family show. Now, it is dark. I can't deny that. There's obviously murders going on and stuff, but it's no darker than the 80s series, which aired on, I think, NBC, where obviously you can't, certainly in the 80s, you couldn't really swear, and all that stuff. So it is dark to a point, but I don't think it's like overly dark for families. Maybe with young kids, yeah, but I think anybody over the age of like 8 or 10 could handle this. I don't think it's necessarily scary per se, just dark. However, that leaves this show in a little bit of a gray area because is it too safe? Is it too family friendly for a murder show? There's a case to be made for that. I didn't necessarily find it that way, but I could see how anybody that's watching this not as part of a family, like if you're, in your 20s and you're like, oh, I used to like the Hardy Boys, I read their books, let's click on the show. I think you may find it too sanitized. So maybe they've gone too far the other way with it. I was okay with it, but I like watching family stuff on my own because why not? If it's good, it's good, But, I don't think this is any darker necessarily than like the Lemony Snicket show on Netflix, which was definitely a bit dark for a family show, but also, family friendly, I think, for families with older kids. I think Hardy Boys on Hulu falls into that realm. I think The Mystery at Hand is a good one because it's so personal to them. I'm not sure if I believe that these kids are brothers, though. They're not quite there on the acting level yet to convince me that they're siblings. So that maybe is a sticking point as well. But overall, I thought this was a solid show. I think there's obviously a lot of different areas to explore here. And I'm going to leave the Hardy Boys on Hulu with a B. And then finally we have Madagascar, A Little Wild. This is another of the movies brought to your small screen in a series form. We just did Trolls last week. And this is actually, so Trolls already had a show earlier called The Beat Goes On, so this is Trollstopia. Madagascar, same thing. They've already done the Penguins of Madagascar show, and then they did, I think, another show too, didn't they? But this one is called A Little Wild, so this is, I think, the third one in the series. But it's the four famous characters from the movies: Marty, Gloria, Melman, and Alex. However, this is a prequel series. So unlike Trolls, where they were, set in the present day of the movies and they're, the actors are doing their best to do impressions of the people, this is a prequel. So this is basically Madagascar kids. And so the voices don't have to match up. They are little kid voices. And I think that actually works in this show's favor because one of my complaints of Trolls was, Skylar Astin sounds nothing like Justin Timberlake and doesn't even appear to try to. So, I think kids would be like, dude, that ain't Branch. Who's this dude? Whereas here, it's like a lot of the shows I grew up with that did kid versions. You had, Scooby-Doo kids, Flintstone kids, Muppet Babies, of course. And so here, we don't need the regular voices. So, animation-wise, I think it's got an interesting look to it. It doesn't really match up necessarily with what the movies did, but obviously they're working with a lot, smaller budgets here, so that kind of makes sense. But unlike a lot of the, Disney Plus shows, and this, by the way, this is another one like Trolls that is on both Hulu and Peacock. DreamWorks must have a thing with both of them because, but Trolls is Universal. And then I don't know, the week before, The Mighty Ones was also on Hulu and Peacock. I don't know who produced that, but this is DreamWorks, so I don't know. But I don't know what's going on. I don't know why Hulu and Peacock are merging on all these animated shows. But either way, if you have Peacock, you can watch it. If you have Hulu, you can watch it. And I think it's good for kids, but unlike a lot of these shows on, Disney Junior, for example, or is that called Disney Junior? I forget. Nick Jr., I know that. or Disney Kids, I forget. But anyway, where there's like two 15-minute segments. This is a full half-hour show. There's, one basic plot for the whole thing, and we see the group do whatever they're going to do for that episode, and then they, of course, learn something by the end. There's a little bit of a lesson. I think the show's cute, I was never a huge Madagascar fan. I like the third movie, Afro Circus, is a true classic. I didn't even know if I saw the second one. Or maybe I didn't see the first one. I don't remember. I've seen two of the Madagascar movies. The third one definitely, and then one other one. It's never really super appealed to me, except for that Afro Circus one. But then I watched like the Penguins of Madagascar movie, which was really not that good. My buddy Tim likes to talk about movies like that being sort of like the Oops All Berries. Like, yeah, you like the Crunch Berries, but like too many of the Crunch Berries is not satisfying. You need the actual Captain Crunch cereal. And I completely agree with that, because I felt the same way about Minions. I felt the same way about the Penguins of Madagascar movie. Now, the show Penguins of Madagascar, I don't know, might have been different. I never watched it, but I will say the penguins are one of the great parts of the Madagascar movies, and they are completely absent from this, which I think is a bit of a bummer. Now, they do have two monkeys that are sort of filling in for the, like, silly factor, the hardcore comic relief factor. I don't think it works nearly as well as the penguins, I will say that. But I think kids will get, some lessons from this maybe. I do like that it's a half-hour, longer form show than you get on Nick Jr. Yeah, I think overall this is fine. I do miss the penguins, but I like that they made it a prequel, so we're not waiting for like, okay, well, this guy doesn't sound like David Schwimmer, or Ben Stiller or whatever. I will say that the kid they got to do the Chris Rock character is he does try to do some like Chris Rock type inflections. I'm sure he was taught that, and I did appreciate that. Just as an adult watching it, I'm like, okay, that's a nice little touch. So this show is not bad, but I certainly do miss some things. So this is a big B week on the show. We gave Industry a B, Hardy Boys a B. I'm going to give Madagascar, A Little Wild a B. So there you go. And again, Industry for me personally is probably more like a C plus or something in that range. But I do think it's a well done show. It's just not the time for me personally to watch it. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We did 4 last week, 4 this week. I think it's going to probably continue in this pattern until the end of the year, because there's not a whole lot of things being released right now. I know NBC Nurses I am going to talk about next week. I don't know if there's new Netflix shows out or what, but there's a couple I want to catch up on too. Noughts and Crosses on Peacock has been getting good reviews, and I actually watched I started to watch the first episode and then never went back in with it, but that's been on since September. So before the end of the year, I definitely want to review that and a couple other things that are out there. So that's going to do it. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.